As a recap, in the previous video, we added our connection at our rafter and our column, or our beam and column. It was a haunch type connection. We learned how to modify or edit that connection if we ever needed to do that. In this video, we are going to learn how to choose the right connection, and we are also going to talk about bolts. So let's get started. You should have added the remainder of the connections at all of your beams and columns per the last video directions. And now we are going to look at how to choose the right connection. Before I start on this portion, I want to hide my footings. So I'm going to hide by category. And then I'm going to select my column, and then I'm going to select my cross bracing. And I'm going to go to my structure tab and I'm going to do connection, and now you see it made a connection between the two. So I know I need a connection there, but I'm not really sure what kind of a connection that I need. So I have everything loaded in there. Since I have my connection here, Revit can help me kind of choose what connection I need to use. So if I click on this and go to connection, I have my generic connection. And if I go to what's available, now my list is shortened. Does not mean that all of these are still going to work. So I'm just going to kind of go down the list. I can also look at the pictures to see what might work. So I'm going to try a clip angle skewed, and that does not work. So then I'm going to look at some type of a different situation, and I'm going to try a front plate splice. That definitely does not work. So I'm continuing to look, and I think if I go with a gable end wall plate, potentially, nope. If I go with a gusset plate triangle at one diagonal, that will definitely work. That can be welded and then bolted into my angle. And again, I could go in and modify that if I wanted to make it any different. So that will work just fine. You need to use the gusset plate triangle at one diagonal and place that on all of your cross bracing. At the top and bottom of all cross bracing, make sure that it is on the flat side of the angle. And on a side note, you typically would not be guessing what type of connection. The engineer would be advising you on that. But again, this is one way to try to figure out something that you can at least start with. I'm going to pause my video at this point to complete my cross bracing. Now let's start creating some custom connections for our structural steel frame. For our first connection, we're going to be doing a simple bolt connection. We have our cross bracing here, and here we want to add a simple bolted connection. If we go to the steel tab, we have the bolt tool. If you go to the pull down, you have bolts, you have anchors, you have holes, and you have shear studs. For what we're going to do, just a simple bolt connection will work here. The first thing I'm going to do to make this a little easier is I'm going to go to my right 3D view. I cannot go into my elevation and do this. I have to do it in my three-dimensional view. I also have mine set to shaded just so I can see things a little bit better. I'm going to go to bolts and I'm going to pick bolt. And then I'm going to window across and select both of my angles. And then I have to tell it which face I want it to be on. So this is my flat face, so I'm picking that. And then I have to select a pattern. If I were going to have more than one bolt, I could do it as a rectangle and pick the corners, or I could do it in a circular pattern. I'm going to pick circular. We're only going to have one. It's going to come in with more than that to begin with, but I just want one eventually. So I'm just going to draw a circle in there like that, and then I'm going to click on the check mark. And now I have my 3 bolts in there. The first thing I want to do is I want to check to make sure it went all the way through, because I don't want to go any further if they didn't go all the way through. So I'm going to go back to my east elevation, and I'm going to take my section mark and I'm going to move it to where it's right in the middle so I can actually see those bolts. If I go look at that elevation, you can see my bolts went all the way through. So I'm in good shape. So I'm going to go back to my 3D view. And now I can start making some changes to these bolts. The first thing is I have standard bolt types and sizes. So I'm just going to leave it with this, but make sure you're using what you actually want. I can also change the grade sometimes. In this particular one I can't, it's a 10.9. I can change the diameter. Again, I want to stay with what is common standard sizes. So I could change it to a 12, I could change it to a 24. I'm going to change it to a 12. And then on assembly, again, there's a possibility you can make some changes. The bolt length, I cannot change. The grip length, I cannot change. I can come down here and change the number, and I'm going to change it to 1. And I'm going to say apply. And now I just have 1. And I need to move it towards down here more in the middle. And then again, I want to go back to my section because I may need to make some adjustment here. My angle is really small. And you can see my washers are actually getting into my angle. So again, we might have to come in here and put a piece in here to separate this out, but for our purposes of showing it as a demonstration, this will work just fine. There are a couple other things that I can look at here as far as changing. If I go to hole definition, it's going to bring up my hole parameter box. And again, I can make some changes here. Here are the connected elements. I have a round hole, I could change it to a slotted hole, etc. I cannot change the bolt diameter. I could change the tolerance on the hole, and I cannot change the hole diameter. But there are a few things here in the parameters I can change. Some other things I can change are, is it done on the site? Is it a site drill or is it a shop drill? Again, I can put that into my information. I can also change what kind of coating it has. If I want it to be a galvanized type bolt, I can do that, or if I want it to be a zinc plated, I can do that also. So now if I go back to my 3D view, and then I would want to do the same thing over here. So I'm going to pause my video and let you add your other bolt in as I'm going to do. So now we have all of our cross bracing attached to our structure. We have it attached at the top, at the bottom, and we have it attached in the middle. This concludes the video on choosing the right connections and on bolts. In the next video, we will be doing an apex connection. We'll be going through creating some custom connections and doing a custom anchor connection, along with other connections that we have coming up.